Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey. I haven't done one of these videos for a while. This is my currently in use pens. Now, bearing in mind, as I've said in previous videos, once again, if you missed those and you haven't subscribed, remember you've got to click the bell twice to get all notifications, because a lot of people are saying, oh, you're back, and it's like, yeah, I was back a bit ago. So just remember that. So I'm going to go through a handful of pens because I am limiting the pens that I'm using every week, every month, things like that. So I'm not ending up with dozens and dozens of fountain pens that all need cleaning, emptying, refilling, all the rest of it. So what I'm trying to do these days is actually stick to a few pens, and those pens, the fountain pens, I'm actually fully intending on finishing bottles of ink with those pens. So let's make a start. As always, I'm going to use Rhodia paper. I am actually beginning to wonder why I even bother with Rhodia paper. It seems to be the standard for fountain pen videos. And I suppose that probably works for most people. However, I myself never ever use Rhodia paper for general writing. Never use it. I have Rhodia pads which I purely use for fountain pen videos. So let's get on with it. Okay, so first pen. I'm going to start at the top here. Fountain pen, Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age with a broad nib. Now, I did a review of this. This was my Grail pen 4 years ago. I did a review of it recently. I think it was last week. Yeah, it was last week, in fact. And did it live up to my expectations as a Grail pen? No, it really didn't. But I'm going to carry on using it because I like writing with it. It's a pain in the bum because it really does need refilling so often. 9.5 pages of A5 and this thing's empty, which is pretty appalling, and I'll get onto the other pens later to explain how I get around this. But yeah, Visconti Homo Sapiens. So let's start off with pen number 1. So this is my everyday carry, currently inked. Oops, the camera's in the way. Okay, so Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age. This is a broad nib, and it is incredibly wet, and this is part of the problem. You know, you can see how this has laid down all that ink just there, and it's a very, very wet pen. It's a lovely writing pen, but it's thirsty. Broad nib, thirsty pen, wet writer, and it only holds a very small amount of ink inside this barrel. The acrylic versions hold more ink because, of course, they don't have this Mount Etna lava resin material which would soak the ink, which would absorb the ink. So this Homo Sapiens with the Mount Etna lava resin has a liner inside it, and the ink capacity for a vacuum filling fountain pen is absolutely tiny. It's like, I can't remember what I said. Check out my review of this pen, because there is quite a lot of stuff in there which I cover. And yes, I like the pen, but blimey, I'm kind of using this because I paid so much money for it, even though I did get it as a good price second hand. And it's a pen that I really coveted for a long time. It was my Grail pen for best part of 4 years, something like that, before I actually found one at a really good price and thought, yeah, I'm going to buy it. I'm not disappointed with it, but I think once I've used up the ink, which I shall just do now, once I've used up this ink bottle, I think it might go back into my collection and just get cleaned, and that's the end of that. So the ink is nice black ink, Pure Pens. So Pure Pens, based in the UK, one of our independent retailers for fountain pens and things. They have their own brand of ink, which is Pure Pens. This is Beast of Bodmin. Really good black ink. I'm not seeing, even though this is a really wet writer and a broad nib, not seeing any feathering or bleed through with the papers that I've been using this pen with. So really good. There's a look at the nice nib, nice Visconti nib. Amazingly, yes, this actually does write. I know a lot of people complain about Visconti's quality control, and certainly after this pen I've not been a fan of Visconti too much. Love the capping mechanism. It's this sort of sprung hook and loop system. It just clicks on and off like that. Requires very little effort. You can do it one-handed, but you've got a great big bulky cap, so it's not easy. But really impressive in many ways and really disappointing in other ways. So that's the Visconti Homo sapiens. Now, to counteract the lack of ink that the Visconti Homo sapiens Bronze Age has, one of my favourite pens has got to be this. It's the TWSBI Eco. This is just the black one. It's nothing fancy. It's just a straight standard issue TWSBI Eco, red finial up there, black plastic piston filler, and look at the ink volume there. I did a fair bit of writing with this and it's used a bit of ink there, but other than that, you get a good fill with this piston mechanism. I love this pen. The nibs, I've never had a problem with any TWSBI nibs. I've never had a TWSBI crack on me. I know people, if you go online, people go, oh right, okay, Visconti Homo sapiens, brilliant pen, blah blah blah, but quality control issues with the nibs are absolutely appalling. I have one pen from Visconti, not a problem, and it was second hand. Somebody could have sold me a dud and said, oh yeah, this pen writes great. Thankfully it wasn't. I got it from a reputable individual, let's just say that. So I'm very happy with that. TWSBI never had an issue with any of their nibs, be it fine, medium, broad, italic. I just really like them. Steel nib, functional, does the job, decent size. Compare this with the Bronze Age, not a whole lot in it. Obviously the Bronze Age is quite a heavier pen, but number 2, TWSBI Eco, this is just black, and this is a medium nib, and it's wet enough, perfectly wet enough. That's pretty wet, no issues with this. And the ink, I'll talk about the ink in a minute, is Waterman Harmonious Green. Right, talk about this ink, Waterman Harmonious Green. When I first got into fountain pens, 7.5 years ago now, blimey, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't think there was a great deal of information out there. Certainly things like Reddit and Facebook weren't particularly good for fountain pens, not like they are these days. And the information that I found was always going on, if you want to get into fountain pens and you want inks, then go with Waterman because they're easy to clean, well behaved, perform well enough, and all these other things. And back then I wanted 4 colours of inks because I didn't know there were other brands or other colours of inks available. I wanted a black ink. For some reason I wanted a blue ink, even though that's what I was trying to get away from with using ballpoint pens, awful blue ballpoint pen ink. I wanted a green ink. That was the main thing. I really wanted a good green ink. I've lost my track. Black, blue and red. I wanted a red ink as well. Now, Waterman Harmonious Green, absolutely nothing wrong with it. This is coming out quite dark and teal coloured on here, but it is quite a sort of pale greeny teal in reality. I don't know whether the camera is actually going to show that properly, but it's a very wishy-washy green ink in my opinion. There is some shading, but there's not a lot about it. And I've hunted high and low for the ink that I actually really like, green ink that I really like, and I've never found it. So I just gave up, and in the end I just thought, you know what, I'm going to use this TWSBI Eco, write with it a lot, use up this bottle of Waterman Harmonious Green ink and leave it there. Just use it for what it is, and that's it. Waterman inks, safe for fountain pens. Most fountain pen inks are going to be safe for fountain pens, so don't ever believe that myth. As for Waterman, and they said, oh yeah, they're well behaved and all the rest of it, I do find that Waterman inks do feather on some not even bad quality paper. They do feather, even though they aren't particularly well saturated. And in the years of experience I've had with fountain pens and the different inks, I actually find Waterman inks write really quite dry. Really quite, not terrible, but you can feel it. If you're writing with this pen for a long time, actually, it's not like the ink flow is starved, but you notice that the ink is not as lubricating with the nib on the paper as with many other inks. Certainly things like Pure Pen's Beast of Bodmin, very nice ink. Waterman Harmonious Green, not really very good. It does its job, but it's not fantastic. And the other thing is I found with Waterman inks is that they can actually be a real pain to clean out of fountain pens. The reason I got Waterman inks right at the start of fountain pen journey was because I wanted an easy to clean ink. I didn't want anything that was too technical or too staining and everything else, and they don't stain particularly. But Waterman Intense Black is absolutely not intense. It's black, but it's dry. It's a bit washed out. And if you do chromatography, if you ever look at fountain pen bleach and inks, I think the guy's called, he does a whole load of art using chromatography, fountain pen inks, and sometimes uses fountain pens in his drawings, and he uses a mixture of water and bleach in different concentrations. You get all sorts of wonderful colours. Waterman Intense Black, if you ever do chromatography, all you need to do is get a bit of tissue paper, but put a blob of it on the bottom of the paper and just dip it in water and see the colours which just spread out. There's all sorts of colours in there. There's blues, purples, all sorts of shades, and it is really quite interesting. But when you clean the pen with the Waterman Intense Black especially, you get this constant, I'm having to flush it again, the ink's stuck in there. It's just really, really quite difficult to clean. So I'm not a fan of Waterman inks at all. But anyway, I'm using up yet another bottle of ink with this particular pen. Next pen, one of my favourites, Lamy 2000. Now, the Lamy 2000 fountain pen, I've done a very in-depth long review of it. Check it out. I've done other reviews or videos covering the Lamy 2000. The Lamy 2000 is one of those fountain pens that, for some reason, and I have a feeling it's the design, it's the feel of this macrolon, it's this Bauhaus sprung clip design. it's kind of modern and timeless. It's like Concorde and the QE2, but iconic designs. Lamy 2000, iconic design. It's a piston filler. It's fantastic. It's even got an ink window that you barely notice, but you can use. It's really, really good. I love the sort of capping. It sort of slides on, and then you get this satisfying gentle sprung clip as it goes into place. Really good pen. Love writing with it. What do I really say about the Lamy 2000 when I actually admit that I didn't write with this for a long time, and I think my best and worst pens of 2023 video, maybe 24, covered this, and it's kind of, the writing experience can actually be kind of aced by the Jinhao 80, I think it was. Okay, it's a cartridge converted Jinhao, it's plastic and it's a bit lightweight and plasticky feeling. But this is, let's do it, just do the writing sample. Just get on with it and then we'll talk about it. So, Lamy 2000, big note about the fine nib in these fountain pens. So Lamy 2000, nice and wet, broad for a fine, and the ink is Diamine 1864 blue black, which is a kind of everyday ink. It always looks very dark, and then you look back at what you've written on the previous page and it's kind of gone to this sort of dark blue. It looks black there, but there is definitely a very dark blue in there. So this nib, the fine nib, let's go back to that. And this is where I got put off, because people do talk about online, once again, the sweet spot. And there really is, and it's hard to find and it's difficult, and I don't have any issues with it right now at this angle. But I can guarantee that if I'm journaling with this fountain pen in bed, I'm writing on the left hand side of the page here like this with the notebook elevated, seems to be fine. Go to the right hand side, start at the top, and it's hitting some weird sweet spot. Here we go. Found it, there we go, hitting this weird sweet spot that, yeah, fine, not fine, it's working, it's not working, and just a ever so slight rotation with these fine nibs. I'm not talking about the medium nib particularly. I don't think I've had a problem with the medium nib Lamy 2000 that I've got. I will have to find it in my pen collection, dig it out and ink that one up as well. But I've got two of these Lamy 2000s with the fine nib, and they have this really hard to find sweet spot. But I can guarantee if you write at any sort of angle other than straight onto a piece of paper like this, you'll notice it. You'll notice it, and there's a good chance it's going to annoy you. The other thing is, of course, it's a fine nib, but it does write broader than a fine. The medium writes broader than a medium. I haven't bought a broad. I still want a broad nib Lamy 2000, but I've never really been able to justify buying yet another Lamy 2000, simply because it's like, well, actually, it's going to be probably a bit too broad. So that's the Lamy 2000. I love it. I can't help it. I thought I didn't like it a couple of years ago, but actually it's a real everyday pen. I mean, the amount of times I go in my pen drawer about to do my journaling, Visconti, there's a very good chance that it's probably empty, or very close to empty. I'll write a page and then the ink will run out. TWSBI Eco, probably more so with the fact that it's using Waterman Harmonious Green. Yeah, bit boring, so I'll go for the Lamy 2000. Next thing, turn the page. Parker 51, black, vintage. Now, Parker 51, I really like Parker fountain pens. I'm going to compare this to the modern Parker 51 at some point. The Parker 51 re-release, I think it was 2022, I bought the teal version. I wanted a Parker 51 in teal, and it was like, why wouldn't I want the modern version? It's a cartridge converter instead of the sack filler. I don't like sack filling vintage fountain pens. And I was like, oh, this is awful. It was one of my worst pens of the year. A couple of years ago, WH Smith here in the UK had an online sale, and they were selling the black Parker 51 fountain pen, the modern one, for like £22. It was a crazy price, and it was like, it's too good a pen to miss out on at that price. So I bought one, and I forced myself to try to journal with it for months, and it was awful. It hard started. It dried out after about 3 days of no use. It was just awful to write with, a horrible writing experience. Really disliked it. I'll compare it to this pen so you can see what it's like. Recently I bought this. This is the Parker 51. I'm sure I could look at the cap or however you do it, and there's stamps on here on the lustraloy cap that tells you what age the pen is. Now, the guy who was selling this, he restores Parker 51s. He was trying to offload a load of them that he wasn't too bothered about. This was like the better condition Parker 51 in black. Really good price. It was, I can't remember, it was like £40 rather than 70, which you'd pay for a similar sort of Parker 51. Gold nib, not the silver nib, and of course you get the much better slide off cap on the vintage Parker 51s rather than the screw on cap on the modern Parker. But yeah, and we've got this sack filler, and it's got the push bar, it's got an ink sac. It takes 3 or 4 presses of the bar in the bottle of ink to draw enough ink up, and quite honestly, yeah, I can write with this pen for a decent length of time, maybe 3 days, three journaling sessions. I've forgotten what number pen this is. This is number 4. A bit of a hard start there, but I had uncapped it. So this is the Parker 51. I'm just going to write vintage so that you don't think that I am writing with the modern Parker 51. Black. This has got a medium gold nib, and it's average wetness, average everything, average smoothness, average feedback, average everything. Nothing wrong with it. It's smooth enough, it writes well, handles everything. And I love it, but once again, it's quite average. The ink is just Parker blue black, which I really like. In a wet, really wet fountain pen, this goes on almost black, and then it fades to this wonderful sort of really deep blue. This might do it on this rodeo paper. Once again, I don't use rodeo paper, so let's have a look at that in a bit. But as you can see, it's kind of already, I can see it. I don't think the camera's ever going to pick it up, but it is kind of fading to this really nice sort of very dark blue. And I like it. I love the design, everything about the pen. Yeah, really like it, but it really is quite average. It's an everyday carry. It's a real everyday writer, but it's kind of, it's good, but it's not ever going to set your heart alight. I mean, I generally would always go, oh yeah, I can't resist writing with the Lamy 2000, even though it's got the fine nib has that weird, silly sweet spot. Parker 51 medium nib writes great, but I kind of tend to err towards the Lamy 2000. Okay, we talked about the fine nib in the Lamy 2000. So let's talk about this pen. Now, I know one of my viewers wants me, he has done for several years, wants me to review this pen. I'm going to review this pen with this nib, and also do at some point later down the line a review of this pen with a broad nib, because there is a huge difference. So let's have a quick look at what this pen and the nib is. So, oof, on Rhodia paper, this is god awful. Yikes, that is. I'll write it down, then we can discuss. Okay, so this is the wonderful Platinum 3776. This is just the black version. I'm not really a fan of the other colours. And the nib is the Ultra Extra Fine. The ink is a cartridge at the moment, Platinum Black. Lordy, this is okay. Right, this is an interesting observation. I'll just do the. That was me, that wasn't a skip. I'm just going to see if you can do reverse writing. To be honest, there's not a lot in it. Okay, gold nib. Lovely, nice gold nib. Lovely pen. I know that some people kind of go, well, yes. I did a video many years ago trying to penable my wife, and I handed her the broad nibbed version of this, and she didn't even uncap it. She just went, ah, it looks cheap and nasty. I don't think this pen looks that bad. I love this pen, I really do. It's one of my favourite pens, with the broad nib and with this Ultra Extra Fine nib. Now, it was about 2 or 3 years ago, Cult Pens had one of their, they do it maybe once, twice a year, they do a clearance sale, and there's sometimes some absolutely stupendous bargains in there. And they were selling the Platinum 3776 with in black, with an Ultra Extra Fine nib. I think the retail price is something like £160 in the UK. They were selling them for like 46. And it's like, okay, I'm probably going to absolutely hate an Ultra Extra Fine nib. I don't like fine nibs. They might make my writing look pretty awful. And I was like, it's too much of a bargain. I love the Platinum 3776 that I have in broad. And for the price, it was like, oh, I've got to try it. Just for the price, an Ultra Extra Fine Japanese nib, which is gonna, I don't think anyone else makes Ultra Extra Fine nibs, but Japanese fine nibs are always going to be finer than Western fine, and an Ultra Extra Fine is going to be crazy fine. It's like almost a needle point if you can get a custom grind needle point nib. And I'll just comment now that I love writing with this pen on 80, 90 GSM paper. I don't have any issues with pretty cheap notebooks, or even things like, I'll just give you an example, Dingbats. I like their notebooks. I use A5 journals, hardback journals all the time. Dingbats do a really good one, but I have kind of gone even cheaper with the really big 320 page. I'll write this down because I can't even spell it. You can buy this on, I'll just write notes book, because you probably can't pronounce it. It probably is one of these Chinese things. Ratassi. That's what I'm using a lot of. You can buy them on Amazon and eBay. They cost about sometimes you can get them on offer. I think I've bought the 320 page one for £14, and sometimes I've bought them for like 8 or something like that. They do vary in price, but these notebooks, they're not sold as phenomenal. It's not Tomoe River paper or anything like that, but I find them absolutely fine, other than the only ink I've found which doesn't work very well in them is Noodler's Blue Nosed Bear, which is a little bit of a weird bleed through, show through wet ink, but that's Noodler's ink. Some of them can be a bit weird, and on that paper this looks more like none of those, even the Lamy 2000 fine, because it's quite a broad fine. It certainly isn't anywhere near as fine as that. This, on this paper, there is a fair amount of feedback compared to the Ratassi notebooks. And this is coming out much more like I would expect an ultra extra fine nib to write, rather than the Ratassi notebook paper. There is feedback, obviously. An ultra extra fine nib, gold nib, I know it's smooth, there is a little bit of bounce, but it is, yeah, it's going to be feedbacky. If you want a absolutely buttery smooth writing experience, as soon as you go into fine nibs, you're generally not going to find that, other than with the Lamy 2000 fine nib, which is wet and very quite buttery smooth. Ultra extra fine, really quite interesting nib to write with. I would say it's 50-50. It's Marmite pen, if you understand what Marmite is in the UK. My other American, Indian and certainly Australian viewers won't have a clue what I'm talking about, but it really is a Marmite nib. Ultra extra fine is very fine indeed, as you would expect, and it's, yeah, great. That's really good. So yeah, I like this pen, and of course the other thing is it's a cartridge converter. This is a platinum proprietary cartridge in there, newly installed the other day, and because it's ultra extra fine, it doesn't use a huge amount of ink. This thing, with its slip and seal capping mechanism, also keeps the nib dry, keeps the nib wet rather, so you can use it and then leave it alone for months on end, and it will write first time every time. Really good. So impressed with this pen. Ultra extra fine with a cartridge. This is going to keep me going for weeks, if not months. Not like the Visconti Homo sapiens. So let's move on to the final pen, which is not a fountain pen. So I'll keep track of where I am. Six. Here we go. Pen number 6. Parker Jotta ballpoint. All the fountain pen people have now just turned off, but hey, if you're still here and you're into writing implements, give me a fountain pen that works as well as that, which has a retractable nib, or sounds or feels anywhere near as good. I bought this pen a year ago. Needed a pen that I could journal in next to my wife in bed at night, with a guaranteed no chance of any ink burping, wiping, being messy, all these sort of things. I needed a pen that I could actually use in bed without incurring the wrath of my wife by getting ink on our new bedding. So this was the pen. Very cheap, cost, I don't know, £7 or £8 in our local Tesco superstore, or Tesco Express, whatever they call them these days. Big Tesco if you're in the UK. They have a stationery section. These pens, the Parker Jotta, comes in all sorts of colours. There are special editions, there are metal barreled versions. This has got a metal top, if you like, and of course the protector down there is metal. Very satisfying, very, there we go, just to annoy everybody. Far better than any capless fountain pen. Really is. If you're not agreeing with that, borrow one. Go out and buy one. They're only £7 or £8. You're going to be surprised. So, once again, it's a ballpoint, so there will be a hard start. So this is pen number 6. There we go, hard start, but all you do, a bit of a scribble, there we go, pen number 6. So, Parker Jotter. Black. And this is, of course, is a ballpoint. However, I'll talk about the refill in a minute. Ballpoint, and this is just the Parker Blue, Parker Quink Flow, they call it. Quink Flow Blue. It does the job. It will absolutely do the job. Really, really, any angle I can think of, it's gonna write. No sweet spots. You do sometimes get this gumming up there, depending on what you're doing and what paper you're writing on. A mix of oily ink, because this is an oil-based ink, and paper fibres. Sometimes you'll get that, depends how hard you're pressing down on the paper, depends on the paper, but this is really good. It's boring, it's a ballpoint. You can get other refills. This is the Parker G2 refill. He's right for months. Honestly, this pen, the blue version I got especially, that I've written with for months on end, still using the original refill. These things last forever. There is no way that any fountain pen will write for that long. I don't care if it's a massive eyedropper and you fill it to the max and it's on the point of just burping. It's never going to write as long as these refills write. Parker G2, you don't even have to buy Parker branded refills. You can get unbranded ones from China on eBay. All sorts of places sell G2 refills. Standard, absolute standard international, ISO standard. Fountain pens have standard international cartridges and converters. Number of times I've come across, I've cleaned pens and I've gone, oh, I'll just stick a refilled standard international cartridge into this other standard international cartridge filling fountain pen. It don't fit. Oh, it's all right, I'll use a converter. Standard international doesn't fit. Parker G2 refills are a proper ISO standard. These things, because they're so ubiquitous, you're not going to have any issues. You can get them in all sorts of colours. You can get a gel refill, which, you know, if you want a wetter writing experience, fantastic. But the Parker Quink Flow blue and black inks, you can get green, red, you can get, if you like, medium and fine balls, so you get different writing widths, the same as fountain pens, kind of. There's all sorts of options. You can get the Fisher Space Pen has a proprietary Fisher Space Pen refill, but you buy that and it comes with a converter which you just seemingly, apparently, put onto the end and it becomes a Parker G2 refill. All sorts of colours, and it's like, this is nuts. Fountain pens are not the only writing implements. And the reason I got into fountain pens was because I was using really bad quality ballpoint pens from Staples, the cheapest of the cheap that our office back then provided. Hated them. And I was like, no, my ex-boss had a fountain pen. Maybe if I use a fountain pen, you can get different colours of ink. Yes, ended up with Waterman, black, blue, green and red. That's how fountain pen journey started. But I've almost come full circle. Last year with my fountain pen journey, as I reported in my last fountain pen journey update, not too many months ago, that, you know, ballpoint pens have a place. They don't smear. I can turn the page, I can wipe it, I can, you know, lay down tons of ink. No smearing. It's great. It's not going to leave ink all over the place. Yeah, to be honest, I've got used to using blue ink. Mainly because these refills, the G2 refills, last so long. This is such a great pen. Moreover, when I look at the diameter of that, I'm going to look at the diameter of that section. Oh no, I need a really big section to hold on to, no writing pressure. Yeah, great, fine. And I was like, I bought this pen. Okay, it was cheap, but it will do the job, and it's a nice pen, and it's a Parker. I like Parker pens. It's going to be so awful. If you had a fountain pen that had a section like this narrow, this diameter, I'd hate it. I would really hate it. But this takes surprisingly little effort to write with. If you press on, you can get a lot more ink out because there's more of the ball in contact with the paper. If you do it lightly, oh my God, you've got line variation. It doesn't matter because all the fountain pen people have already turned off minutes ago. But look at this, you know, seriously, hardly any pressure to write with. But if you actually do want to get a bit of feedback, and you do get a bit of feedback from this QuinkFlow ink system, it's, you know, it's a stickier ink, stickier than some other ballpoint pens. But my God, it's like so much to really like about this this ballpoint pen. The section, if you like, the barrel, I know it does taper down, it's great. Compare this to the Parker 51 vintage, and you know, it's much narrower. What am I doing? I'm thinking I'm using the modern version. There we go. It's not a huge amount in it, but it's noticeable, and I was like, I'm going to hate this pen, but my God, really love it. So definitely one of my everyday carry fountain pens. I said fountain pens. One of my everyday carry pens. These are the fountain pens. So we've got a big old jumble of different things there. And I've only just noticed, now I've got all of these pens together, they're all black. Must be going through a bit of a black pen phase. It's quite interesting. I'm sure there's some psychology there. But anyway, there you go, there you have it. There's the pens. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's been a long video, but if you stuck with it all the way through, you're a dedicated viewer, so thank you. Thanks very much for watching. That's it. Bye.